It's the year 2020, and virtual reality games are starting to take over the world. So, the girl is now playing one that has been driving all her peers crazy lately. The game is called The Owner of the Monster Mansion. Everything takes place in a cursed mansion. You need to choose one of the angel boys and protect him from the evil spirits that live in the mansion, and then raise him to be a real hero. Players can choose a specific role for themselves: maid, teacher, saint, huntress, distant relative. More than 30 roles to choose from. Girl always thought that such games were a waste of time, but she got hooked on this one very quickly and started playing as a maid of the mansion. She chose Diane as one of the 7 owners of the mansion. Redford, a charming boy with silver hair. She was warned that he could easily die, but she still did not change her mind. Her goal was to find out why it was called an impregnable fortress. As time went on, he was constantly on the brink of life and death, and she spent her salary to cure him. Now he's already 16. It seemed like he should have developed immunity, and he went and died while she was gone, simply because he disobeyed and got out of bed. The year-old girl resigned herself to it and was already thinking about who to choose next. But something went wrong. Some thorns started to bind her, and a voice appeared. Supposedly her character died and she should go after him. She thought it was some kind of system error, and then, after a couple of seconds, teleported to another place. It looks like a new game is starting. Maybe she was sent back to the very beginning. Servant turns to young Master Diane and informs that the new teacher has already arrived, which is strange because she was choosing the role of a maid for herself. Girl has no idea what is going on and is taken to a room, and Diane immediately bombards her with indignation. How could she be late for a whole 5 minutes? What kind of attitude is this, and how did she have the courage? Assistants tried to justify the girl, and when she saw that he had calmed down, she asked her to say hello. She gave her name, Lynn, and when asked her last name, she said, "Exit." No one understands what she's saying. It looks like a system error. Suddenly, some woman appears. She attacks the gentleman, and Lynn decided to protect him. Suddenly, this is such a level. She took the sword and promised herself that not a drop of blood would fall on Diane. The dash-year-old girl swung her weapons so hard that she destroyed this strange character in one go. It's just unpleasant that in games it usually looks different, but now it's too realistic. Around the lifeless body, fatal flowers bloomed. It's not for nothing that they were called that. They bloom on those who leave the world. Usually they are red, but on her they are black. A little later, the servants began to clean up the traces, and Lynn and the master came to their senses. At first, the girl told them not to hurry, but after looking at Diane, she still asked them to speed up. He's in a bit of shock, and he's not used to her yet. They haven't even had a chance to meet. She wanted to correct the situation. Lynn asked to bring a vase with holy water and hot tea. This should brighten the situation a little, so he will quickly forget what he saw. She herself needs to calm down. Lynn sees for the first time that scenes of violence are not glossed over in a game. They could have just had a quiet conversation, but Manuel interrupted them. He is the angel from the 2nd room. He heard that the angel with the 7th room got a teacher, so he came to meet her, and he is also interested in what this mess is about. Manuel is the most popular character, whom everyone willingly takes into education, and he also heard rumors and came to make sure that Lynn really just destroyed Moros. This is that strange character. In the end, the guy himself understood everything, and at that moment suggested getting to know each other better. Lynn again didn't have time to say anything. Her master no longer liked that someone needed the name of his teacher. Manuel laughed that someone was afraid that they would take away his teacher, and said that he was doing the right thing. The situation is tense. Lynn doesn't know what to do, and is also afraid to say something unnecessary so as not to make things worse. Everything was bad enough, and now Manuel asks her to become his teacher. A little more, and they will start fighting over her. And Diana is also irritated that Manuel is so confident. The girl tries to resolve the conflict, offers them to drink tea, although it is unlikely to help. Manuel throws wood on the fire, asks if she chose Diana only because everyone else was busy. Seeing the despair in the gentleman's eyes, Lynn replied that she had options, but she made her choice because she wanted him. Of course he was pleased, but Manuel got angry because he thought he was the most desirable. Then the guy asked who was her second contender. He wanted to hear his name, but the girl replied that she didn't want to choose anyone but Diane, and if he was busy, she would try to arrange to swap with someone. Actually, there were times when she wanted to change the character, but they don't need to know about it. Manuel couldn't stand it, and left without saying goodbye, thinking she would run to calm him down, but the girl was only happy. After what she just said, Diane asked her to tell him honestly if it was true. Of course, Lin replied that she hadn't lied, and this touched him very much. He felt so pleased that they had already forgotten everything terrible behind them, and noticeably became closer. The boy noticed that, although she was a teacher, she behaved like a maid. He asked why this was so, and she thought to herself that it was understandable. She had been a maid for so long, and now suddenly she had to get used to a new role. She told him that it was simply more convenient this way because he didn't have to tell the truth. He looks at her so trustingly that the girl is afraid of disappointing him. They just became friends, so it's best to leave things as is. Diane wanted to rest, so he asked her to go to her place, began to literally push him out of the room. And she said goodbye with a smile and wished him all the best. Now she's in the player's room, and she also found out that the system is still responding to her requests. She waits for the error to be fixed. After a day, the system automatically returns players to the real world. Considering that time in the game and in reality flows differently, it turns out that a day in the real world is about 2 weeks here, and she generally needs it for work after the weekend. It's unusual that everything here feels real, and meanwhile, out of boredom, she has to do something. Lin looks at herself in the mirror. Looking at her face, it immediately becomes clear to her that she is in the game. Then she started looking around the room. Suddenly, there was something interesting here. There might be a suitcase here that each player gets at the beginning of the game. That's exactly what she needs. The suitcase contained various tools, weapons, and reference books. This may be useful. Lin is completely confused about what is happening around her. She can no longer distinguish between reality and the game. Is not bad here, but in the real world, she has her own affairs, which even here put pressure on her. Who would have thought that due to some error in the system, players could end up in a world they had recently seen through a screen? There's nothing you can do. You have to accept it, try to survive, and wait until the error is fixed, if the developers even know about it. Walking along the corridor, Lin accidentally found some kind of case, picked it up, and immediately met the character. She immediately recognized him. It was the angel from the first room, Russian. It turns out he dropped it and came back to check if it happened here. His mother came right after him. She took the case from her hands first and asked her to move away from her child. She is very unpleasant, and she also looks as if the girl wanted to harm someone. Then she took the boy and went in the other direction with the same dissatisfied expression on her face with which she came. After a while, Lin found herself outside the mansion. Here, she also wants to find. She was walking calmly, and suddenly she met someone. This person scared her very much. He looks like he's the next one to be destroyed to protect the angels. If it's another drizzle, she'll get rid of it just as mercilessly as the previous one. She was about to pounce on him, but he spoke in time. It seems he is also someone's teacher. He asks if she is really lost here, and after that, he also offers to arrange a tour so that this does not happen again. It's nice to talk to him, the girl happily agreed. Besides, he's very handsome. She notices that they are walking too close to each other, but doesn't even think about moving away. Guys attract with their energy, and even seem more beautiful up close. She is already interested to know what his role is, because judging by his behavior, he is hardly a minor character. A little later, they started talking about the Moros, with whom he also had to deal. In this game, monsters and evil spirits are constantly hunting the angel boys. Evil spirits are called demons here, and Moros means lost, death, and destruction. They are all as dangerous as their names, and until she is sure who he is, she is in no hurry to trust him. Suddenly, at high levels, demons can use human form. A little later, the girl finds out that other teachers are already interested in her. They think that she has completed elite courses, and it is not for nothing that she took one of the best rooms. And the guy also reminded that there will be a dinner today in honor of her arrival. But Lin is hearing about it for the first time. It's so good that they met. Otherwise, she would have missed everything, and then would have had to explain everything. Meanwhile, when they were about to say goodbye, the guy only now remembered that he had not introduced himself. He turned out to be Manuel's teacher from the second room. Time flew by so quickly that Lin didn't have time to notice how evening had come. As soon as she entered the estate grounds, a maid ran up to her. She tearfully reported that they were in big trouble. The young gentleman was badly hurt, and after a couple of minutes, she came running to him. She asks how he managed to get into trouble in such a short time, and he jokes that no one died, which means everything is not so bad. From now on, she will be with him much more often, because he is the one who will find adventures even where there cannot be any. The fact that the boy is constantly injuring himself on something also has its advantages. For example, During the game, the girl has significantly improved her first aid skills. They started talking over dinner, and when she told him that he would have to stay in the room, Diane was so upset, as if she wasn't taking him to some very important event. The girl quickly changed her mind. Since he wanted it so much, she could take him in a wheelchair or give him crutches. He says he doesn't want everyone to know he's injured, and he also doesn't like to look weak. She even felt sorry for him. He was like a little kitten trying to look stronger. They didn't find any solution. He suggests that she go alone anyway, so that he doesn't add to her inconvenience. Lynn asks how she will cope without him, and he insistently says that he won't be too offended. Then he said in a trembling voice that this dinner was organized in her honor, and she could not miss it, especially since this would not happen again. The teacher knows how Diane really feels, and she really wants to go to this dinner. But she is here 44 times, and is sure that if she does not go now, she will not lose anything. In his case, it's the other way around. For him, this is the only chance. He is here alone. Someone still hasn't had a teacher. The girl wouldn't forgive herself if she went without him, so she decided to do it the right way. She suggests telling them that she is happy to be his teacher, so she hugs him all the way to the cafeteria, so that no one will think that something happened to him. She will cover for him until the very end. He is indignant that she is saying some stupid things, refuses to participate in this, and she no longer listens to him. In the end, he flatly refused, and she went herself because all the teachers were gathered there, which meant that she could find out something from them. There are so many people here that it doesn't feel like a welcome dinner. Children start talking to her. They want to get to know her, but their teachers are not happy about it. Girl took one of the empty seats, trying to smile, but seeing that no one here is in the mood to be nice. Lynn didn't even have time to get comfortable before she was already bombarded with complaints. This woman is unhappy that she came here looking like she has something to do with this. The girl says that she put on what she had in her closet and asks if there is some kind of dress code here because she hasn't heard anything like that. So she made it clear that she doesn't care what they think about her. Since this is their first meeting, Lynn suggested that they introduce themselves to each other. Most of them know something about her, but she has no idea who is who. These people are so unpleasant that she would leave here right now, but that would be disrespectful. She stayed here only out of politeness and tries to behave as inconspicuously as possible. She only needs useful information from them all, so the lady listens carefully to what they say. As she suggested to her to begin with, everyone introduced themselves in turn. This is the Russian, the angel of the first room, quiet and reasonable. This is his teacher, Marian, a beautiful woman with a cold expression on her face, more like a parent. Is Minuel, the angel of the second room, an egoist with a rude and willful character. Is his tutor Chesvi, a caring man with beautiful purple eyes, who gives the impression of being a slightly sloppy and lazy person. Is Vivi, the angel of the third room, a boy associated with cotton candy, good-natured and sweet. This is his teacher Yevgenia, an intelligent, smart woman. It would be better not to neglect the rules in front of her. Is Leo, the angel of the fourth room, gives a cheerful impression. His personality is really bright and hyperactive. This is his tutor, Rayvon, a cunning man, possibly part of the chosen tutors, but these are just rumors. Is Serge, the angel of the fifth room, calm and obedient, looks like a very gentle person. Is his teacher Olivia, who's a very beautiful woman with a striking appearance. However, it seems she does not like representatives of the elite. Is Jay, the angel of the sixth room, looks smart because of his glasses, but is a little clumsy. Is his tutor Gilbert. His personality is quite difficult to describe, but he gives the impression of a gentle person. And of course Diane, the angel of room 7, a tiny white kitten, the cutest in the whole world, with silver fur and sparkling ruby red eyes. His teacher Lynn, customized appearance of pink eyes and purple hair, symbolizes the result of her efforts, tears and blood. You will not get a more detailed description. It's very hard to remember all this the first time, but it's better than nothing. The girl didn't sit there for long. An hour later, she returned to her angel, but he wasn't waiting for her. He asks how she did it so quickly. Is the reception already over? And she says that she tried to return as quickly as possible because she was afraid that her little pupil would be lonely. Diane assures that she feels great even when she is alone, so she did not have to worry about him. Lynn noticed that there was food next to his bed, so she went over to check what he had for dinner today. The girl opened the lid and was pleasantly surprised because she didn't think that they would even remember him. She says the food looks great and suggests having dinner together, but he immediately has questions. Diane asks if she didn't eat at the reception, and Lynn says she was thinking about doing it with him. He says he's not particularly hungry, but if she asks, he doesn't mind. At that moment, his stomach growled so much that she heard it and realized that he was pretending. He got scared and started to explain that it wasn't what she thought, and he wasn't starving at all. She realized that he would hardly want to eat normal food, so she ran for dessert. He definitely wouldn't refuse that. The teacher is not going to leave him without food. If he eats at least a piece, she will be calm. The next day has arrived. All the teachers woke up at the same time. The morning routine awaits them. Is the time of morning prayer. They do this every time before going to their angels. Before breakfast, there's a gathering in the chapel and prayer, after which everyone is blessed with holy water from a silver tray. Today, Lynn overslept and wasn't there with everyone. Almost no one noticed except for this maid. She didn't tell anyone anything and came to her to help her wash up and come to her senses faster. She is the only one who has never spoken badly about her. On the contrary, her colleague is always happy to help out and cover for her if needed. This girl is the only one who doesn't agree with the others about Lynn, and she also wants to be friends with her. Lynn is on her third day in this game, and it's still full of bugs. She's confused because the system wasn't working. She wasn't even warned that someone was going to enter her room. Usually, the game warns that someone is about to arrive, and the player receives a notification with instructions in time. With a system window, it would be much easier. But now you have to get used to it. It's very. A system window appears. Lynn is offered to increase the efficiency of the employees working in the mansion. You need to make a good impression on the maid of the 7th room, Sarah, for completing the task and obtaining the required level of trust. The maid will give a hidden task. So far, the level of sympathy is at 0. It needs to be raised to 100. It's unclear how to complete a task if the system doesn't work as it should, which is already annoying. Washing your face with holy water is a mandatory procedure. In addition to this, there are a number of other rules in the mansion. Mansion is always filled with monsters. Every day, you must wash your face with holy water. If you find blood on your gold buttons, you are forbidden to pick them up. You must step on it with your right foot. If the plot passes through the corridor and meets a woman in black in front of the purple rooms, it is better not to ask her questions. And it is also advisable to close the window before going to bed. At midnight, some entities begin knocking on the windows, and you should not open them under any circumstances. Although the rules were created by the developers to give a more gloomy atmosphere, if you do not follow them, this will lead to a decrease in the player's power, and he can turn into a spirit or a monster. The book with all the rules should have been in her bag, but both her personal belongings and her bag were missing. Girls left things at Sarah's and promised to return them by the end of the week. While she still had the opportunity, Lynn asked Sarah if she knew by any chance why everyone didn't like her outfit yesterday. It wasn't bright and was almost no different from the others. Girl explained that choosing the right clothes is very important because others use it to evaluate the rating and abilities of the teacher, and the shirt is only used if the teacher has the right to leave the mansion. Now it's clear why they reacted that way. But I wonder since when this appeared in the system. Lynn still had many questions, but she put the matter aside and went to deal with the purple room. On this night, a young gentleman will catch a fever for an unknown reason. A doctor will come to him, but the fever will not go down. Every night, the workers hear the sound of children's footsteps in the purple room, and the previous evening, one of the maids saw Diane wandering down the hallway. According to the story, when the boy gets sick, Lynn must use her experience and finally pass this level. Meanwhile, she comes into his room and tries to radiate only positive energy. He doesn't smile back because she forgot to knock, and he doesn't like that. He keeps asking her not to forget about it, but she, as luck would have it, comes into his room as if it were her own. It seemed to her that the boy was hiding something, otherwise it wouldn't have been so important to him. Lynn couldn't help but check. She climbed under the blanket with him, and he was surprised that she was allowing herself to do this. She pretended that he urgently needed to change the bed linen, but underneath it, she saw something that shouldn't be there. He explained that sometimes he just doesn't feel like eating beans, so he saves them for later. She doesn't really believe it, especially since the cooks work around the clock and can cook him anything at any time. And he also starts choking on these beans, as if he wants to eat right now. Something is wrong here. A little later, he admitted that he actually hates beans. It's just when the golden is afraid to disturb someone. The teacher began to explain that all the servants here must do their work, and if any of the angels want to eat, they are obliged to feed them. A boy shouldn't even think about whether someone is too lazy to do it or not. They talked about it for a long time, and then the next day came, which should be easier. Lynn greets everyone who crosses her path. She smiles and rejoices as if today is a holiday. No one understands what's wrong with her. Lynn even straightens everyone's ribbons so that everything is perfect today. She just keeps repeating that being a teacher is the best thing that could have happened to her. Girl remembers how in the beginning, she thought that a maid was the best role for fans, but it was nothing compared to the work of a teacher. She praises her young master and is ready to work for him for the rest of her life. Rumors have been circulating that something is wrong with her, but she doesn't notice it. Lady was walking down the hallway and accidentally heard the maid apologize to the teacher on her knees. She promises that she will be more careful and that this will not happen again. And the woman doesn't even look at her below, holds her head straight. Apparently she imagines herself to be someone. Then she couldn't stand it anymore and hit the maid for doing such a terrible thing and daring to ask her for forgiveness. It turns out the maid almost destroyed her angel. At least, that's what the teacher says. She refuses to believe that it was a mistake and is sure that this could happen again. The maid begs for her life, and the teacher is on edge. She is holding back with all her might. Marian agreed to give her a chance. She ordered to go to the Devil's Flower Garden right now and hold out there until tomorrow morning. Only then she asks her, but it is so cruel that the maid asks to change the task. Lynn had never heard of the Devil's nickname for this color before. She wanted to follow them to find out what it was. In order not to be suspicious, the girl waited until they moved away a little, and only then began to catch up with them. She carefully follows them, hiding around corners, but she doesn't remember there being such a place in the mansion. She is here for the first time. She is afraid of getting lost, and in the meantime, that maid has already been locked behind the door. It is a very creepy place. It's unpleasant to stay here, but she wanted it herself. There are no smells coming from there. The air is clean here, although she thought it would be the opposite. As soon as she got closer to the door, Manuel ran up to her and asked what she was doing there. He thought that she didn't know what kind of place it was and was mistaken. And when she told him that she came here on purpose, he was very surprised. Less than a couple of minutes passed before the child felt ill, lost consciousness, and began to fall. The teacher caught him in time and immediately said that she would take him to the doctor. The man examined the angel and said it was just a cold. But the girl remained silent, saying she didn't think so. She remembered that he had the same symptoms as Diane in the original game, but she didn't tell anyone about it. The doctor can only give the medicine and explain how to take it. And when the boy wakes up, he also advised giving him more water. Lynn is outraged. She perceived him as a real charlatan, a man who is not at all interested in truly helping his patient. Manuel's caregiver will now always be by his side, giving him medicine and promising that he will soon get better. It was so bad that he almost spat out what he had just swallowed. There was no other way. She had to tell that she saw him near the purple room and asked him to confess what he was doing there. In this episode, rumors about the purple room spread throughout the mansion. The reason why each of the children goes there depends on the character of each of them. The teacher is surprised and asks him to explain what he was doing there in the middle of the night. The boy didn't lie. He admitted that, like everyone else, he became interested, so he went there. After that, Lynn said that the angel needs rest. They better leave him alone. The teacher thought that things were already difficult for him, so he wouldn't put pressure on him. They were supposed to go their separate ways, but the girl suggests going to the purple room together because she knows he might be interested in it too. She suggests meeting at the entrance to the pavilion today at 12 o'clock and sees that he doesn't want to refuse. Girls explain that she doesn't just want to go there with him. The medicine won't help the boy. First, they need to figure out the source of the problem. He says they don't even have a key and he doesn't know how to get in there. But that's not a problem because she already has that key. Man never ceases to be surprised. And she asked in advance not to ask unnecessary questions. If he is interested, he can go with her and trust her. But if not, she will go alone. 10 o'clock in the evening, Lynn came to put Diana to bed. Only she didn't know that he had a meeting here. She walked into the room and saw that he was there with his friends. And Diane saw her and immediately understood why she came. Children greeted her. They understood that it was time to leave, especially since they should have been in their rooms long ago. They wished each other good night and agreed to see each other tomorrow. Lynn also wished them all the best and asked them not to make the teachers look for them. Girls are happy that her little angel has made friends. They seem to be good. She wondered if he always brought them here when she was not there, and she had already said that she did not mind. He says he wouldn't say they're particularly close, but sometimes they get bored and spend time together. She is still glad that he is communicating with someone and suggested that next time they invite him during the day so that they can all have a bite to eat together. They talked a little more, and she asked him to rest because it was time. Right after that, the girl went outside. She decided to go out earlier because she likes to be outside at such a time. Lin was walking calmly and saw some man pestering the maid. She tells him that she has already refused, and he just tells her to think it over carefully, as if he is not asking for anything like that. Lin knows her. She is famous for her beautiful appearance and unimaginable arrogance, and this man is even unpleasant to look at, and Lin is not going to leave it like that. She only thought about intervening, but the maid had already driven him away. Lin is waiting for the time when the street lights will be turned off. It's dangerous to walk around freely now. It's better not to show up anywhere and wait for Chesvi. He promised to be there. Times the boy's health depends on this. He will definitely come. She just wanted to go inside so as not to stand outside. Immediately felt that there was someone nearby, and it was not honest. It's good that the girl took something with her. She turned around sharply and showed that they had attacked the wrong one. She warned that it was self-defense, and he raised his hands and showed that he did not want to harm her. He is an unfamiliar character to her. She can even ignore him, but he is trying to explain that if she doesn't listen to him or shoots, she will not be able to come back here again. She is almost sure that he is lying and pretending, because he hasn't said anything sensible yet. She got tired of dealing with him. The girl pushed him, and he fell and said that he just wanted a relationship. She didn't expect this from him, and in the meantime, the door opened, and he was afraid that they weren't alone here. Then the door suddenly closed, and Chesvi, who was standing at the threshold, couldn't open it, and he also doesn't understand why she's not alone. He sees these two and thinks that he was deceived. The guy is very tense. He can leave right now, so you need to open the door urgently. Girl is trying to find something to do it with, and the guy just looks around. On the way, they saw a woman in black. She asks them if they have seen her child. Lin remembers that she is not allowed to answer, and it is better to ignore her, so she does so. It turns out the guy doesn't know the rules. He spoke to the woman and said that she scared him. Lin noticed this and ordered him to stop, but he did not take her seriously. According to the rules, if a player answers 3 questions, he will fall under the curse. Therefore, when exploring the purple room, the player begins to experience hallucinations and difficulty breathing. Lin thought that it would be better for her to be on her own. She wasn't obligated to think for anyone else. It so happened that the girl had already forgotten about Chesvi, and when she turned around and saw his face, he scared her terribly, and he still looks at her with such a look, worse than that woman in black. He wants to know why she didn't wait for him and open the door for him, but she doesn't know what to answer. She is ashamed to say anything, and he already thinks that she is more interested in the teacher from the 4th room. Lin immediately said that he had misunderstood everything and suggested not to waste time on these empty conversations. They came here for something else, so it's better not to waste a second. In half an hour, they did everything they wanted and are already returning to Manuel. Boys are upset that the teacher arrived so late. Chesvi says he's been looking for a cure for him for a long time, but Manuel thinks it won't help anyway. This is where the most interesting thing happens. The teacher shows him the suitcase and asks if it seems familiar to him. Men are unhappy that they decided to deceive him and say outright that they know everything. It was something like this, because Lin hurt his pride by choosing someone other than him. The boy borrowed her suitcase, just for a short time, but his action was impulsive, so he got scared. And when he no longer knew how to get the suitcase back, he hid it as best he could. Now says it was just a joke, and the teacher is ashamed of him. If anyone finds out about this, it will damage his reputation. He is offended that the angel does not understand this. It turns out that all this time he was not sick, but only pretended so that when the suitcase was found, no one would think about him. Men warned that if such antics continue, they will not turn a blind eye to it. After a while, the maid informs Lin that her bag has been found. The girl no longer thought that she would return to her. It is only known that someone found her and left her near her room. Lin says she can finally return the clothes she borrowed, and the most important thing is that in the bag, there is something that will make her life easier. Is a small guide. There is a table of contents. It consists of familiarization with the mansion, the needs of the mansion, and the purposes of the mansion. Also, general rules are indicated, and not only. The girl will spend a lot of time with this book. It will be very useful. Lines. I scrolled down to the parenting guide, which consists of 5 points. The first of which is the role of the educator. There are 7 chosen children living in the Redford mansion. The role of the educator is to protect and care for children, all for the sake of their ward being able to grow up worthy. But the next word is not visible because of the stain. That's the problem. Further, it was written that the goal of the educator is a balance between the physical abilities of his child and mental, academic education, physical exercise, as well as education in the field of culture and arts. The second point on the rules for educators: firstly, it is prohibited to disclose to the child information received in the institution. Secondly, if a student receives physical harm outside of disciplinary methods, points are deducted from the teacher. Thirdly, once a month a rating ceremony is held. If the educator is found unqualified, he will be removed from his position and expelled from the mansion. Fourthly, a recommendation is given to keep a daily diary of the educational methods and their results. This may affect the final assessment during the rating ceremony. Lynn thought to deal with this later and went to Diane just in time for lunch. They talked a little, and she started eating so fast that he looked at her and didn't understand why she was in such a hurry. It's better not to explain anything to him. The girl tries to pretend as if she's just hungry. The boy couldn't be fooled. He understood everything, started asking questions, and eventually, Lynn said that Minuel felt unwell yesterday, so she wanted to visit him. Needs to make sure his teacher put a flower under his pillow, and that everything worked. The guy had never been sick before. Everyone thought he had a strong immune system, including Diane, and he also wanted to go with her. He's been bored all day and wants to see someone. She thought it was cute and said she would be glad if he visited the boy too. He didn't like that she said that. Diane asked her not to say that again, but she didn't hear it. Half an hour later, they were already in the Minuel's room, but he was not happy that he was disturbed so early. Diane says he knew he was feeling bad, but now he sees that's not quite true. The teacher is still happy, which means the flower worked. And meanwhile, the young angel asks what kind of bouquet they have. Minuel got angry because he doesn't like purple flowers and can't look at them. Dianu is offended that he actually came to support the person. But in the end, he ended up being the one to blame. To prevent a fight from starting, Lynn quickly changed the subject, but it didn't help much. In the end, they were simply thrown out into the hallway. Minuel is not in the mood today. It's a pity that no one warned about this. They started talking about how the guy was going a bit too far, and also that Diane would never come to him again. Even if the guy apologizes, it won't help him. He behaved just terribly. Then they stopped thinking about others and decided to plan today. Classes started. Diane is sitting alone, and this is the reason why they started discussing him. Manuel wasn't satisfied with what happened today. He was the first to speak. Judging by the expression on Diana's face, he was thinking about his teacher. Some girl said that she would also like to have a beautiful teacher like his, but the guy doesn't care what they say. He's waiting for it all to end. This is the reason why he hates crowded places. Meanwhile, Lynn is knocking on Chesvy's door. She needs something from him. He doesn't open the door, and she urgently needs to borrow his manual. She needs to make sure that her manual is no different from the others, because the further you read her manual, the more words are covered in ink. She got tired of waiting. She dared to go into the room herself, even if it turned out that he was deliberately ignoring her. He's been here with this maid all this time. They look at her as if she's exposed them. A strange situation happened. The guy asks what she wants from him, and Lynn regrets that she came right now. She quickly closed the door, apologized for disturbing me, and blushed deeply. It seems to her that she caught them in some kind of romantic act. After that, she doesn't want to catch their eye. Then suddenly, this guy comes up to her. He apologized for possibly scaring her and said that they needed to talk in private. She hints that she is a little busy, so he can talk now. He wants to know if what happened yesterday was a dream. She asks what he means. Does he mean that she almost shot him? Or that he ran away without her, frightened by the ghost? And from these words, the guy realized that what happened yesterday was not a dream. It turns out that he really lives in a mansion where there are ghosts. They did not have time to finish speaking. At that moment, Chesvy came out. As he understood, she came to talk to him. But for some reason, she asks whether this is true or not. That guy seemed to be jealous of her and started acting as if he cared that these two knew each other and had some of their own business. He literally grabs him by the collar and orders him to explain what Sarah and Lynn were doing in his room. The guy says that the maid actually cleaned for him, and Lynn came to talk herself. He didn't even wait for her. The conflict is resolved, but the girl still tries to make sure they break up quickly. Finally, she was able to say what she needed, and it looks like he agrees to help. That guy also wanted to be helpful. He said that she could take his allowance because he knew it by heart, and he needed it the least of all. Lin thanked him, and he reminded her that they had an unfinished conversation. Chesvi suggested that she come later, because this guy clearly won't leave him alone. They walked down the corridor, and she wanted to ask since when he was interested in who she was talking to here. She doesn't really know anything about him, and neither does he, but she acts as if he were her boyfriend. Girl made it clear that she is here on her own, and no one dares to decide with whom she communicates and spends time. He began to react as if Lin had offended him very much. In the end, he gave her this instruction and showed how much he was offended, and after that, he closed the door. She doesn't care what he thinks of himself. The main thing is that she got what she wanted. She had some free time. The girl went to a colleague to talk about that woman in black. She does not believe that the girl recently saw her with her own eyes, because most say that her presence can only be felt, but not seen. Women just use this information. She already wants to check everything herself, and I told her that this is a fairy tale, and she does not want to waste her time on it. The plot has become more aggressive. It is unpleasant to communicate with people, especially with those who are already known for their difficult character. Mr. Russian was passing by and accidentally overheard the conversation, so he came over to ask, "Why are they arguing?" And the maids unfortunately didn't manage to stop him. Lin explained that he imagined it and asked him not to pay attention to them. Out of the blue, the woman starts to get even angrier. She reminded him that she asked him not to approach her child, although Lin was standing in the same place. It's as if she's looking for a reason to find fault, but she's not succeeding. Lin is too patient. Chesvi joined them, and he distracted them with his mesmerizing energy. The girl asks him what happened. Why is he all wet? And it turns out he was getting a ball out of the pool so the kids wouldn't do it. Marian left without a word, and that's for the best, because it will be more comfortable without her. Lady remembered that her child's classes were ending soon, and she urgently needed to go to him. Guy offered to take her, because he just needed to meet Minuel in that direction. While there is time, Lin recalled how he said that he has been working in the mansion for about a year. He needs him to remember when Miss Marianne arrived here. He began to remember that 3 seasons had passed since she moved here, so it was 9 or 10 months. They talked for a very long time. They didn't notice how quickly they got there. But in the end, she still has one more question for him. She asks him to tell her who she thinks it was who brought her the flower of death at the welcoming dinner. And then he says that he thinks she should know the answer herself. Several hours passed. The girl did a good job. She managed to pretend to be a maid and learned a lot of interesting things. The girl was calmly walking down the corridor. She was stopped by a maid who was surprised why she was dressed like that, and then remembered that she herself forgot to prepare clothes for her. Lin accidentally forgot to change clothes, and she told her that she just decided to stay in this form. Only after this did she ask not to tell anyone about this. Supposedly, they might laugh at her for it. Then they said goodbye, wished each other a good day, and the maids still didn't understand what it was. Now all that's left is to avoid meeting anyone by chance so as not to get into trouble overnight. She just thought about it and immediately met Ravan. He also couldn't help but ask what she was wearing. He remembers that her suitcase was found, and cannot find any reason why she might be in these clothes. The girl says that he saw something he shouldn't have seen, and hints that he should continue on his way. Moreover, he himself clearly came to this part of the mansion not with the purest intentions, which means they better pretend they didn't see each other. He said that he understood everything, although he didn't think about it at first. They were supposed to separate, but for some reason he follows her, as if he doesn't understand that this makes them even more noticeable to others. He is too persistent, does not let her go, wants to know if she deliberately ignored him and told Miss Marian about the pavilion. He wants to say that it was reckless, especially for someone who is in the elite. She doesn't understand where he got the rumors from and thought he needed some clarification. She began by saying that after seeing ghosts in the corridor, he began to suspect that he was related to the previous couple from the first room, and since he had been in the mansion longer than she had, he should know what kind of connection there was between them. This means that he deliberately did not tell her anything, hoping that she would still go to Marianne. And she was also outraged that in this mansion, there is no respect for newcomers. Moreover, they only make everything more difficult for them. Guy explains that he couldn't be completely sure, since he had never seen the previous couple from the first room either. It just seemed to him that the ghost looked like Miss Marian, and to be sure, Lin said not to talk to her about it. He asks to believe who, that he did not have any evil intent as she thinks. Lin still feels like there's something wrong with his words. It's literally written on his forehead. Everything was heading towards the end of the misunderstanding a colleague comes and asks the guy what he is doing here with the maid. Lin turned to face her, and the woman recognized her colleague at first sight. She didn't understand what was going on here, and these other people were pretending as if everything was fine. The girl miraculously managed to resolve the situation, and now she is walking down the corridor again, constantly looking back. The maid comes up to me and says that a letter has arrived and advises me to look at it right now. Addressed to Lynn, Dorchester. Hello. It has been confirmed that you arrived safely at the Redford mansion on September 6th. However, we have discovered that there have been issues with the escort's arrival, so we have sent a backup guide who will be arriving on September at p.m. Escort name is Rafael Cardrigo. Please wait for his arrival at the mansion. Secretariat of the 44th World Central Service, Stella. Time passed. The girl tells the child that for the next few days she will not visit him so often, and he smiled, as if he had been waiting for this and could not hide his emotions. The girl asks if he is really that happy about this, and the boy turns away so that she can't see his eyes. It seemed to her that he was probably already tired of her, otherwise he wouldn't have reacted like that. He explains that this is simply the first time she has stepped outside the mansion. Lynn says she hasn't been on a walk for a long time, usually skipping her days off, and now she decided she finally needs to relax. Promised to return in the evening, asked him to be more careful and listen to his elders. It seems that after he found out about her plans, he had something in mind. The system is still experiencing issues, which could lead to another drizzle. Considering that she is an expert in this game, she knows approximately when he might appear, but the storyline is very different, and it is very difficult to find Moros disguised as a human. Moros, hidden in the form of a human, still behaves like a human, but only until he completely turns into a monster. So he may be among them. No one may even guess about it. Fortunately, the game assumes complete safety during the child's education. She is used to waiting for Diane during lessons. But Stella's business can't wait, so we need to come up with something. And this is just the beginning of the storyline. Everything can change at any moment. First, you need to try to leave the mansion and do it as quietly as possible. The next day came. The girl was walking down the corridor. She was met by Chesvi. Of course, she cannot remain without attention. She lied that she decided to go to the city to buy some things, and she also managed to admire how beautiful it was even in the morning. He knows that she will be there for the first time and offered to accompany her, but she refused. Time passed. The driver took her where she needed to go. The girl fell asleep a little on the way, but he didn't disturb her and woke her up at the end of the trip. He promised to wait for her in the same place and also wished her a good walk and a good mood. She is already looking around for places to go and is also glad that everything here is about the same as she remembered this place. Almost nothing has changed here, but in the meantime, you need to hurry to buy a few potions just in case. A couple of suits for every day and something homey. Even though the system stopped paying out money for completed tasks, she still has a salary. Also, if she had a leveled-up alchemy skill, she could make a potion herself. But due to a system update, the points were cancelled, and she can't even make a basic cold potion. It's all very sad, but you need to live in the present. It's time to focus on what she came here for. Lynn walked up to the first counter and asked if they had any juicy oranges left. They are considered the city's heritage, so there are plenty of them here. You can choose for every taste and color. In the letter, there was some kind of code, a red orange, so she took them right away. Suddenly, nothing would work without oranges. She herself doesn't fully understand where the logic is here. She acts simply based on her feelings, and as luck would have it, she also got a headache. The pain was unbearable, so much so that it was impossible to go further. Lynn postponed everything until tomorrow, so she returned earlier than planned. But even here there were adventures. They tell her that Mr. Diane has disappeared. He asked to go to the restroom during his break and still hasn't returned. She dropped her basket of oranges and was so nervous she couldn't answer. This is the worst thing they could say to her. The boy has been gone for over an hour. This is no longer a joke. Maids check every room, but he seems to have disappeared. After a while, it turned out that he was seen at the entrance to the Devil's Flower Garden. And there is also the fact that the maid from the first room did not return from there. The girl thanked him for the information, then ran off somewhere and didn't say anything to anyone. The maid asks if she is going there, but Lynn does not answer so that they do not run after her. She remembered what her colleagues had said. If you go out the back door of the mansion, there will be a gate on the western side. It is no longer possible to ignore this flower bed. Something is wrong with it. And most importantly, her angel is there, and he must return back. She is sure that he is very scared there now. There can be nothing good for a child in that place. The girl didn't even notice how she ran the entire corridor. She only had one thing in her head now. If only everything would be okay with him. Here she is already there, trying to get through faster. But everything here seems to be created so that it is not so easy to get through. It seems like there is no gardener here. There are so many thickets here. There's not so much in the jungle, and there are also some strange rustling sounds everywhere. You have to listen. You never know what's going on. Plants here are huge, and because of this, they look even more beautiful. She was still thinking about walking for a very long time, but she met Diane, who was just standing in the middle of the lawn. He asks how she ended up here, although he should be the one answering her questions now. She tells him that they will still have time to discuss this, and after that, she took him in her arms and asked him to obey. First, we need to get out of here, and only then ask each other questions. She was in such a hurry to get here that she no longer remembers which way to go to get out. It's obvious that you can just go back, but there's no path here. Maybe some other curse won't let you get out so easily. The girl begins to hear voices. They talk to her and make her go crazy little by little. It's such an unpleasant sound frequency that it can be dangerous to stay there for a long time. Lynn tries to hold the child in her arms and not get distracted as much as possible. Lady had just gotten used to it when she heard another voice, which she didn't even recognize at first. It turns out they are not alone here. They were recognized by a person they know. Chesvi grabbed her hand very sharply and didn't think how much he could scare her. The girl quickly came to her senses and asked what he was doing there, and they were so close to each other that the child in her arms began to run out of space and air. The boy looked at her and noticed that she had a very empty look and began to ask about it. And she doesn't show it. She tries to smile, but it doesn't work. It looks too unnatural. After that, the guy said that he was told that she was going here, after which he followed her. She is pleased to hear this, because they say that even appearing here is dangerous, and since he is here because of her, then she is not indifferent to him. It turns out that he was worried about her just as much as she was worried about the child. Now they are all walking back, trying to stay close to each other so as not to get lost. Lynn doesn't hear these voices as often anymore, but they still haunt her. The teacher asks Diane to close his eyes so that he doesn't see these horrible flowers that seem to drain his energy. And then Chesvi stops, turns to them, and asks what the rush is all about. He wanted to show something, touched the plant, and it began to run away from them. Lynn had never seen anything like this before. She thought it was forbidden to touch them for safety reasons. Chesvi thinks that maybe not all of them are bad. Some may be here just for show. Half an hour later, they were already outside the gates. Only now were they able to breathe a sigh of relief. And those who were waiting for them were also very happy to see them. People thought that something would happen to them, that if they returned, they would be barely conscious. But it happened like this. Most even wanted to go into that area to make sure that it wasn't that scary, but they were still afraid. Everyone is surprised how it happened, how they even got out of there alive. Guys started to tell that not only were they not harmed, some flowers even ran away from them. Sounds strange, but that's how it was. The girl even confirmed his words. A little later, she came to the realization that the Devil's Flower Garden absorbs negative emotions, which means that if the name is not shared, then one can come out of there safe and sound. Maybe because she tried not to be nervous, everything turned out so well. Now they ask her if she will return there again. But she herself does not know the answer to this question. When she became silent, the boy was afraid that she had completely gone crazy. Even said that in this case, he will always be by her side and will not allow this to happen. Because if you are lucky once, it does not mean that it will always be like this. Even though the teacher is silent, she is thinking about something. Then they return to why the boy went there, and he did not come up with anything. Said that he went there for rare seeds that grow only in the Devil's Flower Garden. He heard that beautiful flowers grow from them, and she was so kind to him that he wanted to please her. He is grateful that it was she who became his educator, with whom he can be who he is. It turns out that the boy went there for her sake. He was ready to face danger for the sake of her smile. Lynn was very touched by this. She feels so good. Probably no one else was willing to take such risks for her. Of course, she said it was incredibly valuable and nice, but she made it clear it wasn't worth it. Anything could have happened to him there, and she wouldn't have survived if something had happened to him. As always, they resolved the situation peacefully and calmly, although they could have had a big fight. Chesvi, at the end, wanted to know where the boy found out about these seeds. Usually, there are a lot of rumors about them. Diane says he heard they were very rare, so he thought they might be perfect for a gift. And when asked who exactly told him about this, he became silent, apparently afraid to admit it, or was asked not to do so. Time passed. Closer to the evening, the boy began to complain of a fever, so the teacher searched the whole house for a doctor, who was everywhere except his office. She complained that it was impossible to reach him, but he only said that the workers of this mansion were too impolite. In the end, she didn't argue with him and asked for something for the fever, and he slowly began to look for something that might be useful. It seems like he's working here on his first day and doesn't know where everything is. I don't want to trust such a doctor, but I have no choice. She finally got what she needed and is trying to quickly return to the child so that he doesn't suffer for long. Even though he feels very bad, he asks her not to worry and go and rest, because she can sit next to him all night. His face is red, he has difficulty breathing, but he still thinks that even in this state, he can do without her. Lynn remembers herself when she was feeling bad. At such moments, she feels lonely and is sure that it happens the same way to everyone. She can't leave him here alone. She promised to stay until the morning, especially since something could happen to him at night and she has to be there. He's unlikely to even say later that he feels unwell, just so as not to bother anyone, as usual. The next day came. Lynn was going to get water and accidentally met a colleague who couldn't help but ask how Diane was feeling. She said with a grin that she didn't know he was so weak. She didn't even want to answer anything. Let it be on her conscience. The teacher even dared to say that she wasn't surprised that he hadn't had a teacher for so long. Supposedly, it was too much trouble. She even suggested that she think about taking on another student, because sooner or later she would get tired of this. Girls are trying their best to ignore her, but such pressure is already alarming her. It seems like she is saying this not just like that, but with some purpose. Lynn can't stand it anymore. She says that the woman is very wrong. The boy is not to blame for the fact that no one wants to take him on. And unlike other children, he is very well-mannered and smart. And unlike some adults, he does not allow himself to say things that no one asks him about. Girl hints that someone has no manners, and that this someone does not even deserve to call himself an educator, because if she herself is like that, then what can she teach someone? In the end, she forbade anyone to speak about her child like that. Next time, she won't just let it go. She has nothing more to do here. She leaves them because she has more important things to do. As soon as she went outside, she went under the window and a bucket of water poured out of it. This never usually happens. The maid probably did it on purpose. And she laughs so much and says that she is very sorry that even a child sings, that it was not an accident. The maid explained that she was just cleaning and knocked over the bucket. But Lynn understands everything. She is already so tired of these coincidences that she could come up with something, but she doesn't have enough time for it now. When it appears, she will definitely take revenge on everyone. But in this situation, she found something good, so she cooled her ardor. Was about to go further, but she was stopped again by Chesvi, who seemed to be watching her all day long. His child also came after him. It all looks like she is just being bullied. She couldn't be alone today. She constantly gets into some kind of trouble, some kind of continuous black streak in her life. The guy just came up to express his opinion. He insists that the girl demand an apology, because the maid didn't even apologize. He even offered to bring her here so that everything would be fair. Lynn remembered everything that happened before and thought that they were probably taking revenge for the conversation with Lady Marian. And it is also possible that she herself asked them about it. These two came to take care of her, and the girl already has thoughts that even in this there is a catch. He wipes the water off her face, and she wants to say something, but she can't. If this is manipulation, she doesn't want to fall for it. Although, why should he be like the others? The boy looks at them and tries to remember since when they were so close, as if he is starting to be jealous of his teacher. He is already nervous that no one is paying attention to him, and Lynn feels awkward. She doesn't understand what's wrong with this guy, and she's also embarrassed in front of the boy who understands everything. While they were standing there, someone took very good aim and threw a flower pot, but Manuel moved away in time and was not injured. This was the last straw. He got angry and warned that if they didn't leave here right now, he wouldn't talk to anyone again. The next day has come. Today is the day of the arrival of the escort from the Stelli. The guy gets out of the carriage. Lynn came to meet him. She was prepared for this, but at the sight of him, she was a little confused. She didn't have time to tell him anything, and he began to complain about her ignorance. Supposedly, only more than a week had passed, and she had already managed to forget about the hierarchy. No matter what he says, she still doesn't hear him. She admires his appearance, because he is just her type. For the sake of decency, she changed the subject, turned to him, and asked how he was feeling. And he found a problem in that too. He didn't like that she called him by his name, and also asked about it as if she was his servant. At first, the girl didn't even understand what was going on, because she didn't think he could seriously say such a thing. Then he asked to be taken to a less crowded place so that he could feel comfortable. Just think. He hated her so quickly because she just called him by his name. She invited him to go into the living room, after which he asked with displeasure whether she had really moved in and offered him such a thing. Lin has no idea what the problem is, what he didn't like. This person is hard to please. One can only believe that he is not picky, but simply avoiding something. He doesn't like the bad air and a bunch of ordinary people everywhere. That's not all. He thinks she got arrogant after she was chosen as a teacher. At that moment, I wanted to tell him a lot. But the girl is smarter than some and was able to remain silent. She already wants to leave him as soon as possible. She regretted that she came to meet this man. He doesn't deserve her attention at all. He's always dissatisfied. It's amazing how he even became who he is now. He was sent as a new escort, so in the future, he suggests not to lose contact. She still doesn't understand what it meant. She only knows one thing. It's better to stay away from him. A little later, a system window appears in front of her, which is just in time. Thanks to him, Lin realized that the escort sent by Stella is literally a game guide. If she knew this earlier, everything would be different. The girl is already a little confused about what's going on. She forgot where she was going and wants to quickly leave to do her own thing. Meanwhile, the system provided access to character profiles. Rafael Cordiego, 24 years old, Division, second-level investigator of the World Central Secret Service. Special information is a representative of the nobility, the third son of the Cordiego family. He made it clear that she must notify him of every action she took if it was something important. Here, the girl is already beginning to understand a little more. It has become clear that she is simply being tested for strength. This is probably needed for some next task, something like preparation. When she had already resigned herself to the fact that he would not leave her alone, the maid came running with news. She said that there were problems with the carriage, which meant that they wouldn't be able to take her back. Lin asks if it is really impossible to find a carriage outside the mansion, to which the maid says that no carriage will reach the mansion in an hour. The area around the mansion is really difficult for carriages. There are only trees and fog around. The assistant also says that the gentleman will most likely have to stay here for some time, and she prepared the room herself, although she was not asked to do so. There's nothing to be done. He asked to be taken to his room, which means he might not like something there either. On the way, the maid asked if he was a priest by any chance. He says she guessed right, and Sarah said that where she comes from, finding a reverend was pure luck. Guy thinks that there is nothing surprising in this. Supposedly, what is a priest doing in the lower world? Alin immediately thought to herself that if he continued to throw such words towards Sarah, then he would have to deal with her again. She didn't think about it for long, then said outright that it wouldn't hurt for him to watch his speech, because being with him was becoming unbearable. He asks what she's talking about, and whether she really wants to tell him that he needs to use softer language. She explains that he is here on an errand, so he should behave like a respectful guest. But for some reason he doesn't see the difference, as if the system itself will choose a more appropriate expression. She didn't know until now that such a function even existed, but now she does. After a long conversation, it became clear that he just needed to smile. Arguing with him was useless anyway, and being hostile was also. She started to follow these rules, and he immediately asked her to stop smiling and asked if she had prepared the thing that was mentioned in the letter. He probably means a red orange. She said that they were now in her chambers, and he praised her for the first time, because for the first time she had managed something. And he also said that the Archbishop loves all sorts of curiosities, so he will probably be happy. A little later, the girl finds out that she is one of the investigators of the Secret Service Stella, and now she needs to contact them if she finds something in the mansion that relates to the affairs of the service. Then some other system error popped up. They were already so annoying that she was too lazy to read it to the end. Meanwhile, she was informed that her child was waiting for her, and she needed to come to him as soon as she had time. Here she is already next to him. The boy missed her so much that he started talking non-stop. He wants to know how she spent her day, and also hinted that he misses her very much. As she thought, when someone is sick, they feel especially lonely when no one is around. Lin promised to spend the whole day with him at the first opportunity, but she doesn't know when that day will come. She has so many things to do now that she can't say exactly what it will be tomorrow. The boy quickly wanted to sleep. He had a hard day today, and when he went outside, the girl noticed Raphael. She only thinks that she might have imagined it. Then she came back. Here someone was having some kind of get-together. It looks like a tea party. The girl still hasn't figured out what's going on here, but she feels something interesting is brewing. When the assistants began to light the candles, a draft began to extinguish the fire, which created a tense atmosphere. There are a lot of people around, so Lynn stopped thinking about it. She is attracted by these desserts on the table. She happily agreed to join him, including for the treats. Today, the tea was so delicious that it lifted her spirits and made her want to chat with someone. Although I can't say that there are nice people around with whom you want to talk, and generally look in their direction. And then she begins to fear that these people could not have gathered with good intentions. Could there really be something extra in this tea or treats? She already regretted that she drank half a cup, and it was also very suspicious that someone started to leave without drinking a sip. She began to look at everyone very carefully, but they all had different emotions, which made it impossible to read anything. When the girl tried the first piece, she could not stop. You need a big bowl to try the maximum number of flavors. Is already looking at her strangely, as if they have some kind of food shortage, but it's all so delicious that she doesn't care what they think of her. The girl opposite started hinting that there are rules of table etiquette, and also hints that she finds it unpleasant to watch someone stuffing themselves with desserts one after another. A little later, everyone started talking about this mansion, because some people started noticing strange things about it. Redford Mansion. Unknown. No one knows exactly when it was built. About 150 years ago, according to the will of the great saint, special children began to be raised in the mansion. And these children, the salvation and light of this world, are precious beings who attract attention, including the attention of heretics, and they, in turn, direct all their forces against children. Lynn still doesn't understand how some people live in such conditions their entire lives. It's a mystery to her. In any case, while she is here, the girl will try to do everything on her part, just to protect at least one of the angels. Time passed. She met the child again. She had some time, and she was also interested in how he was doing. They talk about what his plans are for the future. For now, he wants to grow up and pass the exam with flying colors to prove that he can be better than others in something. He admitted that he has so many complexes that in order to get rid of them, he would only have to prove something to others or become famous so that they would start to love him. She decided to tell him a little later that it doesn't work like that, hugged him, and suggested going for a walk before they met anyone. Is striving for something, and she is ready to help him with this. Lynn is still surprised why she is accused of having some kind of complicated angel. Personally, she thinks exactly the opposite. Other teachers have difficult children, but Diane is the perfect child with whom there are almost no problems. She was calmly walking along the catwalk, and then a colleague stopped her. He screamed so loudly that she got very scared. He was surprised that she flinched. He thought he hadn't called her so loudly. Now he considers himself guilty. Lines says that she will talk to him about something later, because now there is no time. And the guy took it as if she thought he was running after her to make her notice him. She doesn't want to explain anything to him, and she also notices how his face turns red, and she restrains herself from laughing. He, as always, invents things that don't even come close to being real. The third child, who was left without a teacher today, can't part with his ball. He wants to throw it everywhere he can all day long. It so happened that the ball fell near another child who was right next to the teacher. The woman was outraged that a ball was flying down the hallway and did not pass by. She threw it back and asked what was going on with that face that would scare not only a child, but also an adult. She also asked why he wasn't outside. She had already told him not to come in here with the ball today. Boys said that they want to play here, and if they don't like someone, the Russian can go somewhere else, and she too. A woman explains that this is actually a recreation room and is not intended for playing with a ball. The boy couldn't argue with her. She pressured him and forced him to leave. This happens almost always. It's not surprising if even here someone pesters him and asks him to go somewhere else. He was lost in his thoughts and didn't notice how he dropped the ball, but it rolled to the pool and fell into it. It was lucky that an adult was nearby. The boy explained to Chesvy what had happened and asked for help if it was too much trouble for him. This time, the ball went too far. To catch it, you will have to wet your clothes. The guy got this ball. He will have to change clothes again. But the main thing is that the child is happy. He enjoyed helping so much that he would do it again. He is such a kind and good person. Finally asked the boy to be careful, because it was unlikely that anyone would pass by and agree to such a thing. Children asked not to touch their head. They hate it when someone touches their hair and ruins their hairstyle. Then he ran away, and Chesvi looked at him with a smile. Apparently, he was in too good a mood today. Then he turned to Lin, asked how the situation was, which means that he found out that she was spying on them. She felt awkward. The girl apologized and said that she was just nearby and couldn't help but peek. They started talking about their own things, shared how their day went, as they hadn't seen each other for a very long time. Lin thought that since he approached her himself, she could ask him for something. He was unlikely to refuse. The girl warned that the request was a bit out of the ordinary, so he should think in advance whether to agree. She thought he was just laughing, but the guy was already doubting whether he might actually refuse. Lin then said directly that she needed to go to the Devil's Flower Garden, and it would be nice if he accompanied her. He had a question about whether she liked watching people suffer. Without answering it, she asked her own. She reminded him that he had driven away the flowers with just one touch that time, and it was important for her to know if he had suffered from it. The guy replied that nothing like that had happened to him, in which case she explained again that no one but him would help her. Others would be afraid to go there, but he handles plants confidently and is ideal as an accompanying person. She says there's something there that she needs to see, but he doesn't know what there is to see. She explained that this was something very important to her, so she would be very upset if she couldn't do it. A girl promised that she would never ask him for anything else again. It was so important to her, and now she wants to know whether he agrees or not, because if not, she will not waste time and will go herself. Even if he refuses, she still won't give in, and then he says that it's hard for her to refuse. Now asks when she is going to go there to calculate the time and adjust her plans. Lin can go tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. She is free any day for this, in which case he suggested going there in 2 days, in the evening. So the day has come, they are going as agreed, and they haven't even changed their minds yet. Instead of silently walking away, he reminds her that if she asked someone else, no one would agree. It seems he supports her, but not quite as much as he would like. And he also deliberately manipulates, asking what she will do if he changes his mind right now and leaves here. She doesn't fall for it. She has other concerns now, and if he's bored, he can talk to himself. They walked for so long that she wanted to do what he did last time, touch the flowers. He reminded her that he had already told her about the local plants, and she told him what she remembered, that they absorb a person's negative emotions and show him events from the past. In the end, he agreed, but asked that as soon as she felt bad, she immediately talk about it and not remain silent. Time passed. They were already returning from the flower garden and agreed to keep everything that happened there a secret. They returned so late that all the children were already asleep, so there was no need to go to them. She couldn't help but do it. She came to him just to check if everything was okay, and she almost burst into tears that lately she spends a maximum of half an hour a day with him. The next day had already arrived. They went out for a walk with him, and on the way they met a boy, because of whom Diane asked her to stop and wait aside. He said that he wanted to sort it out with him. She didn't attach any importance to his words and gave him time. And when I realized that he was somehow serious, I looked in their direction and noticed that something was wrong. The boy approached his friend too aggressively, without even saying hello to him. And a second later, he hit him with his fist so hard that he almost fell, just so his teacher wouldn't see it. Lin can't believe her eyes. If she knew what would happen here, but she wouldn't have allowed him to go there. She doesn't understand where so much aggression comes from in him. Has she really been absent from his life for so long that he doesn't tell her anything at all? It seems to her that if he did this, then something serious happened. But it's not that bad. But the fact that she didn't find out anything about it. Meanwhile, these two woke up and are talking about yesterday's situation when one of them poured water on the teacher from the 7th room. Girls didn't think that this would be revealed so soon. She wonders who is gossiping about it. Friend says that Rosemary saw everything while hanging the laundry. There are so many people working in this mansion that rumors spread faster than the conflict ends. The girl thought that she deserved it. There was no need to say too much in front of Mrs. Marian. Her friend asked, what if Lin now tries to get rid of her? Then they thought that everything would be fine. She was in the flower garden and was able to return safe and sound. And they also say that the flowers avoided her, which means there is something kind and merciful in her. They saw that Mrs. Marian was not very angry with her that day, so there was no need to worry. A friend cautiously advised that if a girl runs into her, she could try apologizing and saying it wasn't on purpose. Girl said that if there is an opportunity, she will try to overcome herself, but does not promise that she will do it. One of the many rules among the staff inside the mansion was that all employees are prohibited from leaving their rooms after all lights have gone out. Well, if someone needs to leave them, for whatever reason, in order not to be poisoned by the acrid night air, it's worth taking a vase of holy water and fresh flowers with you, in case the lady is a lamp. She thought she heard someone there, but she was actually going to the bathroom. But now she doesn't understand where she is. It just so happened that Lynn was here, and she dedicated it to her and said that she didn't think that there would be anyone here except her. Then she came closer and asked if the workers weren't allowed to leave the dormitory after the lights went out. Girl added that it is dangerous to disregard the rules like this, and she can't move from the spot. She is scared. She can't say anything. She looks as if there is a monster or a ghost in front of her. Then she asked Melody not to stand still and come closer, but she is not sure if it is safe for her. In fact, Lynn came into this corridor to ruin the paintings, which could harm anyone who ends up here at night. Melody's, I thought something had happened to Lynn, but she just wanted to help. She even swung an axe in her direction, but that was only because she was near the painting. Girl didn't explain anything because there was no time, and Melody almost lost consciousness because she didn't understand everything correctly. Judging by her clothes, she was going to the bathroom, but since she somehow ended up in the gallery, she was lured here by the painting. It's good that Lynn noticed her in time. Otherwise, Melody would have already been eaten, and she wouldn't have said so right away because the painting would have swallowed her right away. Lynn, I'm curious to know why all the paintings in this gallery are of someone's children. After yesterday, they quickly went to their rooms. The next day came, and as usual, the maid runs up saying that they have problems. All the holy water in the mansion is spoiled, but Lynn doesn't understand how this can happen. She washed her face today and everything was fine. The maid says that this is because the same water is used several times. For example, for morning prayer and washing the next morning. All the water from the storage is spoiled, and there was a supply for a week in advance. It can be assumed that this was done on purpose and around this night. Employees are trying not to get nervous because the head pastor is probably already looking for a solution. Meanwhile, Mr. Chesvy came up, and he said that he was at morning prayer, but there was no one there, so he came here to check if everything was okay. Girl sees him for the first time after the events in the flower garden, and in the meantime, replies that someone deliberately spoiled all the holy water. Guy said with a smile, "What a nightmare. You can't tell from him that it bothers him much." Chesvy says that this is the Radford mansion. The higher-ups will quickly resolve everything, so he thinks there is little reason to worry. While they were talking, someone was busy and seemed to want to tell them something. This guy suggested that maybe the attacker could have used this axe to somehow spoil the water. Is the same axe with which she chopped up the painting yesterday, and it's still unclear why he even assumed that this axe belonged to a criminal. Suddenly, one of them clapped his hands and ordered everyone to calm down and get to work, because everyone still had a lot of work to do. He introduced himself as the consul general of the mansion. His name is Schneider Fabian. According to him, it will take some time to solve the problem. Many didn't understand anything, but here's what the man actually meant. The Radford mansion is isolated from the rest of the world, and it will take several days to restore the water reserves in the storage facility, which means that for some time we will have to live together to save on the costs of the remaining water. This concerns workers, teachers, and children. Women think that this is impossible, and if that's all, they will take one of the prepared rooms because the air here is simply disgusting. The man asked them to follow him and also said that if they had any requests, they could contact him. Lynn clarified in advance whether all the children were already there or if someone needed to be looked for. The man says he has already collected most, but not all. Meanwhile, those already in the room are protesting because they are not going to crowd around because someone didn't keep order. A very serious conflict is brewing. It's time for adults to intervene, which is what they are actually doing. The one who rebelled the most, the teacher, approached him. Although it is unlikely that he will be of any help here, Lynn approached her. He is more or less calm. Unlike some, he has patience. It turns out that a doctor was recently called into this room. He has already arrived and is asking which of them is sick. The boy approached him and said that he had a headache from stress, and the doctor offered him 1 spoon of medicine. Teacher doubted how he understood so quickly what needed to be done. Even though the child says he has a headache, maybe the problem is something else. It seems like he just wants to get out of here as quickly as possible. He doesn't delve into the problem. This is not the first time this has been noticed. In the end, no one liked the idea of crowding here. Some tolerated it, and some wanted to protest. You can't even take a break from all that noise. And the worst thing is that no one knows how long it will last. Maids try to smooth things over, offer drinks, but the more time passes, the more likely it is that a conflict will arise. All they do is repeat that they are tired of being here, as if they don't understand that there is no choice. Few people understand that in order for everything to remain peaceful for longer, it is better to remain silent and not provoke anyone with your behavior. One of them started a neutral topic. Gradually, everyone started telling what kind of tea they liked, so there was less chance that someone would quarrel. Everything was perfect, but exactly until the moment when the maid obviously deliberately poured a jug of water on the teacher. She said it was an accident, but even he knew it wasn't true. The maid suggested that he change his clothes quickly, which meant she needed him to leave for a while. Everyone thought that was the end of it, but she continued and accidentally spilled it on him again. Bright red tea that's so hot you won't be able to sit still. The first time he refused to leave, so she continued. But after this, he is no longer going to remain silent. The guy warned that if she spilled something on him again, he would answer for every time it happened. And now he really has to change his clothes. He is very unhappy and is trying with all his might to stay calm. Everyone thought he wouldn't be able to handle it, but everything worked out thanks to his character. To prevent anyone from following him, he warned in advance that he didn't need help choosing clothes. After this situation, some people began to suspect that the maid did not want to harm anyone, but on the contrary, saved him. It is possible that the tea was poisoned, and she deliberately did not let him drink it. When she was asked about this, she became silent, which only confused everyone even more. Then everyone changed the topic, split into groups, and started talking about their own things. So everything worked out. Lines. I thought it would be much more difficult, but so far, no one has even raised their voice. At this moment, the girl remembers about Diane. She hasn't approached him for a long time and decided to check how he is. Boy says that although everyone around him is arguing and he feels an unpleasant atmosphere, for now, he is tolerant here. He is waiting for the moment when he can finally be alone in the room. He used to think that it was unbearable, but it is better than having so many people in one place who don't like each other. The girl was worried that it would be very difficult for him here, but the guy behaves decently. He even manages to calmly read a book. While she was going to the children's room, others noticed that she had disappeared somewhere. The girl had just returned to the room, and they were already asking her where she had been. Lynn began to fear more and more that the more time passes, the thicker the air becomes, and tomorrow it will become noticeably worse. If nothing is done, there will be no more of him, and she was given a task. She must participate and do something about it. She no longer has the strength to think. She would like to do nothing like the others, and as luck would have it, it activated at the very moment when she can't even breathe normally. Everyone was already starting to think that she was feeling ill. A colleague decided to stay nearby. You never know. She's pleased that he thinks about her. It's just a pity that it doesn't change anything. After a while, the girl came to her senses. She realized that there was no choice, and the more she thought about the bad, the worse she would only make things worse for herself. She started talking to others to distract herself. Otherwise, she would go crazy alone with her thoughts. Guy even offered to talk to her about everything that was bothering her, but she said that everything was fine, just a little tired, and the lack of air also affects her well-being. Meanwhile, the girl receives a task, runs in the corridor in order to catch the ghost. But before that, she is interested to know what bonus she will be given for this. She asks her to hide, because if he wants, he can catch her right now. I thought that things might get more difficult later, and immediately grabbed her by the shoulder, smiled at first, but then a strange feeling appeared, as if it was too early to rejoice. There's a feeling as if all the energy is being pulled out of her and transferred to the child, and the closer she is, the stronger the effect. A second later, the girl grows up, turns into a young woman, and says that now it's her turn to catch up. They have to do this until time runs out, but Lynn is unhappy about something. The girl is confused. She doesn't understand anything, and is already doubting whether she agreed to this in vain. The developers didn't sort out the bugs before giving her some quests. It turns out that since she is now a target, she personally fell into the clutches of the hunter. I'm sure she'll soon stop feeling her arms and legs, and she'll also have trouble breathing, all because of poor circulation. She was almost sure that she was at a safe distance, but the ghost was closer than she thought. In the end, she didn't have enough strength to continue the game. As usual, a colleague appears on time. He will take care of her from now on. How long she was unconscious. All this time she was tormented by the question of why she was running after a ghost that looks the same as she was in the real world. The next day came. The girl woke up, thinking at least today she could rest. But all the most interesting things are just beginning. She got out of bed, went to the mirror, and saw herself in the past reflected in it. Thought that a miracle had happened, and she had been returned to the world from which she had come. Girl wondered where her pink hair was. Was her custom appearance taken away without her knowledge? Chesvi came a little later. He apologized for coming in without knocking. He thought she was still sleeping. The guy asks why she looks at him like that, and she wonders why he isn't surprised. Because she's not the one he's used to. The lady was embarrassed because she was standing in front of him without makeup. He had never seen her like this before. He casually suggests that she take a rest, and she says that she can't remember what happened yesterday, asks him to tell her how it all started, and how he got her here, if he has time, of course. He didn't think it was that serious. He reminded her of how she fell down the stairs, but for some reason, he doesn't want to say anything else. Had to pry information out of him. Only after that, he told that he took her to this room and watched her for a couple more hours. Suddenly something. Lin thanked him for his help and, as if they were strangers, began to tell him that she was a new maid and had just recently moved in. He didn't react to this at all, as if he was pretending to be ready to play along with her. They sat down on the bed, and he asks if any new symptoms have appeared. He can bring medicine for her. He's like a doctor, checking her temperature on her forehead, and she tries not to react, especially since she likes everything. She wants him to do even more things for her. With him, it seems as if everything is not so bad. Lin has a lot of questions, but she wants to figure things out on her own first, so that he doesn't think she's completely crazy if she asks obvious things. Did he really see her in a new guise when she fell down the stairs, and seriously think he was talking to a new maid? And then something interesting begins. He says that he needs to see how the healing is going, so he asks to let her take off her clothes. Of course she refused, asked him to wait a minute to come to his senses, and realize whether she understood everything correctly. In the end, she thanked me for my concern, and said that it would be better to see a doctor. Allegedly, she doesn't want to burden him with her problems. He probably has enough of them himself. Chesvi became persistent, asked her to worry, and said that he had basic knowledge in medicine. It is not yet clear to her how he can cure her problem with massage movements. Moreover, she has such a wound that it is better not to touch her at all. When he started doing it his way, she asked for painkillers, and then he admitted that he had completely forgotten about them. She realized that it was a mistake to trust him. In his place, she would never have forgotten about such a thing. He realized that he was starting to anger her, decided to leave, and finally advised her to rest until she got better. She understands that she has no choice, since what he wants will not work out, because no one will complete the task instead of her. Lin specifically approached the boy's room to check how the one with whom she had swapped appearances behaved with him. It's really unpleasant to watch how she doesn't let him go. She already wants to quickly return everything to how it was. If only I knew how to do this. It seems the more she tries to change something, the worse it gets. Lin wondered if she caught up with this fake, would everything go back to normal? She had to deal with it before time ran out and keep her away from the child. Another teacher came at the wrong time and closed the door to the room. Now it is impossible to spy on them. Her stress level is too high. Lin couldn't think of anything better to do than go in and clean the room. Even though another maid had just cleaned it, the boy seems to feel that he needs help. He shows where he has left, and the real Lin is only happy. She tries to do everything slower in order to stay here longer, and the fake one tries to stop her. After a while, there were no more places to clean. She had to leave. The girl was walking down the corridor and accidentally noticed someone fussing and talking in whispers. She can hear them trying to be more careful and talking about some fallen hand. Lin came closer to ask what they had there, and they became serious, as if they were hiding something. The man doesn't want her to see what they're doing there. He only said that they found something at dawn and want to get rid of it, and also hinted that if she didn't want to end up in the place of the one they found, she'd better go her own way. The maid only asked where they were going to take him, and they started talking rudely to her, as if she has no right to know what's what. But they just don't know her. If she's interested in something, she'll definitely follow and see everything. They are still suspicious, so now she won't be able to help but look in that direction. She's sure something's wrong here, and now she's going to find out where they're all going. While she was following them down the corridor, she heard that they had forgotten their keys and were going to go back for them, which meant they urgently needed to hide somewhere. The girl just started to get nervous. Chesvi scared her. P snuck up from behind and reminded her that he told her to rest. She wondered what he was doing here, because until that moment, she was sure that she was the only one who knew this passage. Guy asks how she's not afraid to walk down the hallway so she can become one of those who are carried like a blanket. She says that she tries to breathe less, and if she appears somewhere in such places, then only for a short time. The girl also assures him that she is fine, and that she is in complete control of her well-being. He still insists that she obey him, but she doesn't know how to say that it's impossible. Lin understands that if he lies on the bed, it will turn out very badly for everyone. After some time, they return to the main hall, and even here they could not pass peacefully. They are stopped by a maid who asks why they are here together. Sarah looks as if she is jealous of him. Guy says he feels like it's none of her business, and they don't even have to answer that question. She started doing everything possible to get them to separate. She even said that they were expecting children, but it didn't help. Then they thought that, indeed, they hadn't checked the angels for a long time and promised to meet in a couple of hours at the same place. Before the girl could reach the room, Sarah stopped her and demanded an explanation as to whether they were really dating now, because that was the first thing she thought about. Lin says that, in fact, she didn't even think about meeting him. It was some kind of coincidence, and if Sarah is jealous, then there is no point. It is clear that the maid has fallen in love with him, but this does not mean that Lin will calm down or justify himself to her. It's not her fault that the guy is showing more interest in her, and he's definitely not going to apologize for it. Sarah says she saw the girl looking at him, but she must have imagined it because it wasn't like that. Lin, on the contrary, wanted to go about her business, but he stalks her all day long. Before it happened, Sarah asked for one favor. She needed the girl to take a closer look at his back and shoulders the next time she saw the gentleman without a shirt. Needs her to tell what she saw. Call it helping a colleague. But Lin still doesn't understand why she needs it, and she also asked to clear the plates in Conrad's office. Didn't even wait for an answer. Went about her business and didn't say goodbye. Girl has no idea what's going on around her lately. She's already so tired that she wants to spend at least a day without adventures. She wanted to calmly walk into the room, accidentally looked into one on the way, as if she felt that something was happening there. Everyone here is tied up, trying to get out, and making some sounds that can't even be heard in the hallway. Girl asks what's going on here, thought everything was under control, but then she looked more closely and everything became clear. Someone lured them here, neutralized them, which means they need help, and it's just in time. Lin, without thinking twice, hit the butler, who was the only one here who wasn't tied up. When he looked at her, she saw that he was not happy to see her here, unlike the others. She told him that if he was planning something like that, he could have closed the door behind him. But it was his own fault that she saw everything. She doesn't even feel sorry for him. The man allows himself too much. She said that if he attacks her again, he will get it twice as hard. She began to help those whom he was holding here, and asked him not to even come close. And then the butler offers to talk, as if he doesn't understand that no one even wants to hear him. He was worried that he would end up in their place, and in the meantime, the girl asks him to tell him nicely why he tied up the doctor. He says that he simply didn't pay attention to her words and is trying to avoid the question. It turned out that he confused the guy with Moros. He is so outraged that he cannot find words. The man says he meant well, but it turned out as usual, and he's ready to apologize. A little later, evidence emerged that the doctor was also hiding something and was deliberately acting like a victim. When the butler accused him of seeing him somewhere, the guy began to get noticeably nervous. We'll now have to try to figure out which of them is telling the truth and which one needs to be detained. And then, Lin wondered how the doctor could walk freely around the mansion without holy water. He began to ask how she could even suspect him of anything. Supposedly, he had just been connected with this man. He explains that this is some kind of misunderstanding, and also reminds that, in fact, it was he who created the medicine that replaces holy water. She reminded that, in fact, no one knows about this, so his argument does not count, and the fact that he has kept silent about this until now is actually not working in his favor. And then he offers her one of the two copies, but in return, they ask her to keep everything that happened here a secret. Of course she agreed. This was the most profitable option, especially since, thanks to this potion, she was able to penetrate into the basement. And without it, it would have been difficult. She is putting in too much effort for some quest. She is already confused about what she ultimately needs, how much time she has for it, and in general, how important it is. There are so many distractions around that it is impossible to focus on one thing. Lin didn't finish today. She goes somewhere. And then again, Chesvi. He apologized if he scared her again, and she is no longer surprised that they met again. And he also asked if she had any idea what he was doing here at such a time. Guy hints that it's time to treat her wounds, and he felt that she would come here, but it sounds too suspicious. She didn't tell anyone about her plans, but he was right there, as if he had been following her around all day. Excessive care begins to bother her, and in the meantime, he still asks her to explain herself. He wants to know what she was doing that opened her wounds. He thought that she wouldn't listen to him and would engage in amateur performances, as always. Guy decided that he doesn't do enough for her. Now he will be around more often, whether she likes it or not. He started doing something, and it became so painful for her that she wanted to run away. She already has doubts that he knows what he is doing. Chesvi just wants to bandage her wound, asked her to be patient, because there is no other way.